Aloha, everyone. Excuse us while we're just on Hawaiian time a little bit tonight. I'm Cheryl Walthall, Executive Vice President of the General Contractors Association of Hawaii. And we are streaming this event live from the Olelo Community Media Studio in Mapunapuna, just down the street from our office. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. While it's disappointing that we're not all together enjoying the camaraderie of this special evening, it's my pleasure to welcome you as you watch our annual installation ceremony from your home or office. I hope you've got some poke and the adult beverage of your choice. As we look back at what has transpired over the last year, I'm certain we can all agree 2020 was a year filled with new challenges. No one was exempt, including those in the construction industry. But in the midst of those difficulties, the construction industry adjusted, adapted, and continued to press forward. Throughout the pandemic, our member companies continued to work, and together we kept building Hawaii. The GCA provided extensive educational resources on safe work practices. Projects continued to move forward. Employees continued to work safely at job sites throughout the state. All of this did not happen by accident. We are indebted to Governor David Ige, who declared construction was an essential industry in his emergency proclamations. Governor Ige recognized how important our contributions are to our economy and ensured we could continue working. This evening, it is my pleasure to acknowledge our governor for his support by presenting him with this certificate of appreciation. Let me read it to you. The certificate says, the General Contractors Association of Hawaii is proud to present this certificate of appreciation to Governor David Y. Ige for his steadfast support of Hawaii's construction industry throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. As an essential service, the industry has been able to keep projects moving forward and save thousands of jobs. We are committed to supporting Hawaii's economic recovery. And the certificate is signed by Leslie Isamoto, 2020 GCA President, and me. Governor, on behalf of all of our more than 500 member companies, mahalo for your valuable support when we needed it the most. We are honored to have you with us virtually this evening so that we may present this certificate of appreciation to you.
Thank you, Cheryl, and the General Contractors Association of Hawaii for this certificate of appreciation. I am truly honored to be recognized by your organization. I share this honor with the General Contractors Association and the people of Hawaii for adapting and adjusting to the challenges of the past year. As you mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic touched everyone's lives in some way, and we will not only survive, but we will thrive, and we will do it together. I also want to thank you for inviting me to your annual installation ceremony. On behalf of the state of Hawaii, I want to acknowledge the leadership of the outgoing officers of the GCA and offer my congratulations to the new officers. Your leadership will be vital as we navigate the changing economy during and after COVID-19. As an organization, GCA will have a critical role to play as we pursue infrastructure projects to keep Hawaii working and growing. I appreciate your support during the past year and look forward to working with the General Contractors Association of Hawaii in the coming year. Aloha and mahalo.
Thank you, Governor Ige. We are also fortunate to have our new mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, Rick Blangiardi, here to share remarks virtually.
Mahalo, Cheryl, and aloha to all of you. You know, it's great to be here, virtually honoring those who helped lead the General Contractors Association of Hawaii in 2021. And so welcome to the 2021 GCA President, Emmett Kinney. And to outgoing President, Leslie Isamoto, thank you for your service. And even through a global pandemic, what an impressive 2020. You know, great teamwork is a quality that is not lost on me. So to the officers and directors, thank you for your hard work. You've helped tackle issues from construction and procurement to hiring and everything else in between. So I look forward to witnessing your success in the coming year. And I want to thank you in advance for all of your hard work and dedication. Aloha.
Thank you, Mayor Blangiardi. We are going to jump right into the program here, starting off with our 2020 Committee Awards. Each year, we recognize one committee that has done outstanding work and one committee that has stepped up their efforts in a big way. I'm going to turn it over to our GCA 2020 President, Leslie Isamoto, to present the awards to the committees he would like to recognize for their work in 2020. Les?
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank all of you, the committee leaders and members, for all of your hard work throughout the last year. It was a challenging year, but you all continue to give your time and energy to advance the industry, and I'm grateful for your dedication. The first award we are presenting tonight is for the most improved committee. This year, that recognition goes to the Human Resources Committee. Last year, numerous new HR related regulations. The HR committee was very active reviewing, digesting, and sharing information and what it meant to our industry. They also hosted several GCA webinars, which were timely for the crisis we are in, including substance abuse awareness and violence in the workplace awareness. The HR committee is chaired by Jennifer Creedon of Swinnerton and Alicia Ramos of Allen Shintani Incorporated. And their mentor is Laurie Isara of Koga Engineering and Construction. Jennifer, on behalf of the GCA of Hawaii, I want to thank you and your committee for a job well done for keeping the construction industry informed of these important HR matters. And thank you very much. And the other award we have tonight is the Outstanding Committee Award. It's the most prestigious award of a committee can receive. And for 2020, that honor goes to the Safety Committee. In a year where safety on job site was more important than ever, and with even more restrictions put in place than ever, the Safety Committee came together to share information and best practices to keep all of our job sites safe. Safety Committee provided support to our COVID-19 task force, vetting the sample job site safety policies and other information the task force was putting forth. The Safety Committee produced a contact tracing best practice document, and Chair Adam Cotton and Vice Chair Nate Lutz also conducted a webinar on contact tracing that was not only well attended, but got a lot of participation from members as they asked many questions of Adam and Nate. I also have to commend the Safety Committee for quickly figuring out to present the Safety Awards as a drive-through event at GCA, and the wonderful video they produced to honor the Safety Award recipients. As I mentioned earlier, Adam Cotton of Hansel Phelps chairs the Safety Committee, and Vice Chair Nate Lutz of Nordic PCL. John Romanowski of James W. Glover is their mentor. Adam, congratulations on this well-deserved recognition, and thank you and your committee for all your hard work and dedication this past year. Mahalo. In March of last year, as soon as it became apparent that COVID-19 was going to become a global pandemic, the GCA quickly stood up a COVID-19 task force with the goal of keeping the industry operating throughout the current environment, providing resources and information our industry would need, and to develop recovery plans in conjunction with government and private sector developers, owners, and clients. A small group of industry leaders agreed to join the task force led by Chairman Lance Wilhelm of the Wilhelm Group, Vice Chair Jerry Micott of Hawaiian Dredging and Construction Company, and subsequently produced a multitude of resources, not only for our members, but shared beyond our association with other contractor associations, so that the information will be distributed industry-wide. The task force took the lead on producing construction industry pledge to avoid the spread of COVID-19 on Hawaii construction sites, which was signed by over 150 contractors, subcontractors, associate companies, trade unions, and other associations, and sent to the governor and all county mayors, all 4 county mayors. GCA leadership guided by the COVID-19 task force was what kept our industry working as safely as possible. On behalf of the Hawaii construction industry, I would like to thank the task force for the numerous contributions over the past year by presenting a special award, the President's Certificate of Appreciation, to its chair, Lance Wilhelm. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, take picture. Congratulations to the HR Committee, Safety Committee, and COVID-19 Task Force. You all truly stepped up during a difficult year to ensure stability in our industry, and I would like to personally thank you for all that you've done and continue to do to support the GCA and the industry. And a big mahalo to all of our committee members, board members, and everyone watching for an outstanding year. You have greatly contributed to this association. We sincerely appreciate the level of service, dedication, leadership, and enthusiasm you have devoted to the GCA. Last year was a crazy and stressful year for everyone, but there were a lot of positives that came out of the pandemic. We put our committee meetings on Zoom and increased committee member participation. This is something we plan to continue to offer beyond the pandemic to make it easier and less time-consuming to participate, especially for our neighbor island members. We completed our first ever membership survey and learned what we're doing well and where we need to improve. Those insights helped the board as we developed a 3-year strategic plan. Our plan is nearly finalized, and we're looking forward to sharing it with the membership in the coming months. But I want to let you know that our top priority is member engagement. Our members are our greatest strength, and the more you participate, the more you get out of your GCA membership. Whether it be new business relationships formed, learning best practices from your peers, helping to develop our future workforce, or taking time to be a part of something bigger than yourself or your company in order to elevate this great industry we're a part of. There is a place for you here in the GCA. And if you're not quite sure how to get started, please call me and I'd be happy to talk through what it might be a good fit for you. And now I'd like to invite our outgoing president, Leslie Isemoto, to share his reflections on the past year. Les?
Thank you, Cheryl. What a year. Most a year ago, still before at the installation, it was very talk about how good the economy was. A lot of good things was going to happen. Went to Austin, Texas in late February, and continued on with the AGC conference in Las Vegas. Came back and wham, entire country shut down its economies. It became very, very tough. It has been a tremendous workload, scrambling, not doing the normal things we do, learning different things. But I think the bright side of it is that we have overcome the constraints of COVID-19 and all of its requirements that we are still following to today. I'd like to thank all the committees, our staff, our board for such a tremendous year, for coming together, assisting in every way that they could in order to keep our construction industry keep running strong. There are some challenges ahead yet, but by working together, I know we will overcome it. I have all the confidence in the world with incoming President Amy Kinney and the rest of the board to carry out the strategic plan that we've kind of finalized and we actually did get through. It's a little delayed. However, we have a plan to go forward with, and we look forward to your participation and support of this industry and our GCA in order to keep our 808 construction strong. Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you, Les, for your leadership over the past year. This may be the first time I've seen you in person in 9 months, but you've been there offering your support and guidance every step of the way. And your year as president of the GCA may not have gone as you had envisioned, but I bet you appreciated all the airfare and time you saved having all of our meetings on Zoom. In all seriousness, your even keeled and steadfast leadership were exactly what was needed during this time. So thank you, Les. I'm excited to introduce the 2021 General Contractors Association of Hawaii Officers and Board of Directors. I'll ask those here in person to join me in front of the cameras here. Our 2021 officers are President Emmett Kinney, Vice President of Healy Tibbetts Builders. First Vice President Dale Sakamoto Yoneda, President of S&M Sakamoto. Second Vice President Steve Baginski, President and CEO of Kaikor Construction Company. Treasurer Laurie Isara, Vice President of Finance and Administration for Koga Engineering and Construction. Immediate past President Leslie Isemoto, President of Isemoto Contracting Company. Also with us here in the studio for the Leadership Forum that's coming up soon, AGC Life Governor Lance Wilhelm, President of the Wilhelm Group, and AGC Governor Rick Heltzel, President of Healy Tibbetts Builders. The rest of our board of directors are with us virtually. On Zoom, we have AGC Life Governors. Glenn Nohara, retired President of Koga Engineering and Construction. And Bill Wilson, retired President of Hawaiian Dredging Construction Company. AGC Governors, Glenn Kaneshige, President of Nordic PCL Construction. Jerry Mikett, President of Hawaiian Dredging Construction Company. And Garrett Sullivan of Sullivan and Associates. Our past president directors are Clea Sato, President of Koga Engineering and Construction. Lance Inoue, President and CEO of Ralph S. Inoue Company. Cedric Ota, Vice President of Hawaiian Dredging Construction Company's Waterfront and Foundation Division. And Gerard Sakamoto, Chairman of S&M Sakamoto. Our board of directors are Ed Brown, Division President, Hawaii for Goodfellow Brothers. Charles Stack, Vice President, Regional Account Executive of Interstate Restoration, Hawaii, and the new chair of the Subcontractors Council. Ted Taketa, President and CEO of Starcom Builders. Michael Venezia, Chief Estimator for Hensel Phelps. And newly elected board members, James Abishima, Project Director for Hawaiian Dredging Construction Company. Tyler Dillon, Executive Vice President of Layton Construction. And Michael Inoue, Vice President of Ralph S. Inoue Company. Congratulations to our newly elected board members, and thank you all for serving on the board this year. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce our 2021 GCA President, Emmett Kinney. Emmett serves as Vice President of Healy Tibbetts Builders Incorporated and has been a member of the GCA Board of Directors for the past 4 years. Healy Tibbetts specializes in marine and waterfront construction projects, working in the open ocean and in harbors. Healy Tibbetts requires team members with highly specialized skills and investment in specialized equipment to build offshore foundations and underwater structures. The company also performs dredging, construction of deep foundation systems, and select utility infrastructure projects. Every successful person has great mentors in their life. Emmett credits a number of people for his accomplishments to date. He said his dad, who was a firefighter with the Honolulu Fire Department, was instrumental in laying a strong foundation for him. Emmett also gives credit to Rick Heltzel, president of Healy Tibbetts, for showing him the value of teamwork and the importance of having a good reputation based on quality workmanship. And as a proud Kamehameha Schools graduate, he points to Princess Bernice Pauahi Bishop for the principles she hoped to perpetuate in Hawaii. He is now committed to giving back and supporting others in the same way. He is engaging the next generation of construction professionals who will be the future of our industry. Although Healy Tibbetts is one of the GCA's largest member companies, Emmett has an appreciation for entrepreneurial work environments. Because of the nature of his firm's projects, Emmett says creativity is important to finding solutions. There are not always clearly defined paths. That's why he appreciates the perspectives and needs of both our large and small members, whether they are on Oahu or the neighbor islands. He wants to make sure the GCA provides value for each of our members, regardless of which island they live on and the size of their company. One fun fact about Emmett is that he is a master brew maker. Emmett's homebrewed beers have won Best in Show at the Kona Brewers Festival twice. We also know that Emmett enjoys spending time with his family. We want to thank Emmett's wife, Mei Lee, and their daughter, Elsa, and son, Ian, for allowing him to have the time to lead the GCA this year, especially as his two children prepare to head off to college. Emmett, we appreciate your support of the construction industry and the support of your family. Please join me in welcoming Emmett.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you to all of you for your vote of confidence in me to lead GCA this year. I would like to first of all express my deep appreciation to 2020 President Les Isemoto. He and the other GCA board members helped us navigate one of our most challenging years. We had to quickly figure out how to deal with COVID-19 so that we could keep the projects of our member companies moving forward and keep our employees working throughout the pandemic. We were all on a wild roller coaster last year, but Les, we want to thank you for providing stability and helping to make the ride much more bearable. Mahalo for all that you have done. It's good to have you here with us this evening on Oahu. As we begin this year, we find ourselves still with our seatbelts buckled on the same roller coaster ride. But it's not as scary because we can see where we're going. With the vaccine now being distributed nationwide, including Hawaii, we have glimmers of hope for a faster economic recovery. If the timeline goes as planned, we can expect the vaccine to be available to the majority of Hawaii residents by this summer. As Cheryl mentioned earlier, I've had an opportunity to really listen to and learn about the needs of our members and look forward to continuing to make sure that GCA can continue to provide valuable resources for each of you to be successful. Whether you're a general contractor, subcontractor, supplier, or affiliate member, I'm determined to make the GCA a go-to resource to support each of our member companies across our state, large and small, and attract new members to further diversify our membership base. Based on what many of you have shared, this will also be the year we begin to devote more time and resources to workforce development. At one time, we were all young and just starting off in the industry, and there were those who supported us. Now it's our turn to prepare the next generation to eventually take the reins of the GCA and our respective businesses. This is essential for succession planning and to improve both the bandwidth and bench strength of our industry. This means being open to new, innovative technologies and refreshing our programs and events to support our younger members. This also means we'll need to tap into the wisdom of our veteran members. Many of our members have lived and worked through economic recessions and have emerged on the other side. History is a valuable teacher, and we can benefit from the collective insights and perspectives of our members to learn how to become more resilient during this challenging period. Finally, as the GCA prepares to celebrate its 90th anniversary next year, we want those outside our industry to be proud of our contributions and to celebrate with us. Our membership has literally and figuratively changed the landscape of our islands, and we have improved the quality of life for Hawaii residents. This year will be a time to prepare for this upcoming milestone. We have a lot to do this year, and I would like to leave you with an important message, and that is, there is a place for each member to contribute. This is the year to jump in, discover what you're passionate about, and get involved. I promise you will receive so much more in return, and your contributions will lift up our entire industry. We can make 2021 a pivotal year for Hawaii's construction industry. Mahalo again for giving me the opportunity to lead this great association. It is an honor to serve you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmett. We are excited for your leadership this year. It's now time for the ceremonial passing of the GCA gavel from 2020 President Leslie Isemoto to 2021 President Emmett Kinney, which symbolizes the passing of presidential authority from our last president to the next. And now, as President Kinney's first order of business, he will present past President Leslie Isemoto with the 2020 President's Plaque for his outstanding leadership and dedication to the association and Hawaii's construction industry. This concludes the GCA installation ceremony. And we are moving right along to our leadership forum, which will be moderated by our new GCA president, Emmett Kinney. Our guest panelists are Rick Helso, president of Healy Tibbetts Builders, and Lance Wilhelm, president of the Wilhelm Group. I asked Rick and Lance to not just share their bios and what positions they've held, but to briefly share how they became leaders of their companies. Here's what they had to say. Rick's introduction to the construction industry was working as a summer engineering intern for Takehart Construction in Sacramento during college. His first assignment was on a heavy civil pipeline project adjacent to the Sacramento River, and that was it. He wanted to pursue a career in heavy civil construction. With the goals of working overseas and working outside and not at a desk, Rick interviewed with a dozen or so companies and ultimately chose to work for Healy Tibbetts because they did a lot of international marine construction projects. Rick says his passion was to be a part of the construction team and that a management position was the last thing he wanted. Rick worked on marine construction projects in the ocean for the first several years of his career, having a blast traveling, meeting interesting people, plus building some very challenging ocean outfall pipeline projects. In 1983, Healy Tibbetts informed Rick that they were sending him to Hawaii, where he would be the new area manager. Rick reluctantly agreed. I mean, come on, who wants to go live in Hawaii, right? He was actually hoping to be assigned to an outfall pipeline project in Manila and wasn't interested in being an area manager, but was willing to do whatever they asked him to do. Rick was promoted in this way 2 more times. You know, Rick is such a humble guy that he says he got promoted by default, but I'm sure Rick's leadership style, work ethic, and dedication had a little something to do with it. In 1993, the new parent company to Healy Tibbetts, Weeks Marine, closed down all of the Healy Tibbetts offices except Hawaii. And according to Rick, by default, they made him the vice president. And then in 2000, Weeks Marine's construction division manager, who was also designated as Healy Tibbetts president, resigned. And again, according to Rick, by default, they promoted him to president. Rick says both promotions were unceremonious. Hey, Rick, you're now the VP. Hey, Rick, you're now the president. Rick wasn't out there trying to move up and chase a bigger title, and says his duties today are not much different than when he first arrived in Hawaii in 1983. He still takes an active role in and really thrives on bidding, designing, and building Healy Tibbetts projects. Lance began his career in construction as an office manager trainee for Hewitt Pacific Company in April of 1989. The position no longer exists as the functions related to the job have been automated out of existence. I guess Kiewit uses Roombas to sweep the job site trailer floor nowadays, which is something Lance once shared was part of his early responsibilities at Kiewit. Lance rose through the ranks at Kiewit, and 25 years later, Lance left Kiewit Infrastructure West Company as its vice president of Hawaii operations, having spent his last several years with the firm helping to oversee the first 3 construction contracts for Honolulu's rail program. Lance spent the next 3 years as development firm Iron Gate's managing principal before forming his own consulting and management firm, creatively named the Wilhelm Group. Today, Lance and his team are involved in a wide variety of projects in both the public and private sectors in engagements that range from early Kamehameha schools, where he is currently serving as chair. Lance says that he never pursued a particular position or aspired to hold any particular title. What he tried to do, and what he continues to try to do, is to expand his sphere of influence just a little bit every day. Lance has always had an interest in being a part of directing and shaping the future, whether for the companies he's worked for or for the charitable organizations he serves. To do that requires influence even more than authority. If you have the title of CEO, but no one listens to you, you can't really accomplish much. But if you have the title of janitor, but everyone trusts you and believes and takes your lead, you can change the world. So long before Lance had any title that sounded even remotely impressive, he worked on trying to expand his sphere of influence so he could help to shape the future for himself, his family, and his community. Now that you've heard their stories and how they came to be in the leadership positions they hold today, let's hear their thoughts and perspectives on leadership and the lessons learned throughout their distinguished careers. Without further ado, I will turn things over to Emmett to get our leadership forum started. Take it away, Emmett.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, Rick and Lance, for agreeing to join us here at the installation ceremony to share your manao and knowledge with the rest of us. If I were to have it my way, I have several more titans of our construction industry, people who I have a lot of respect for here with you to share their knowledge. But circumstances we have to deal with. Cheryl, I pare it down a little bit. So looking forward to just having an open discussion and just, offering up whatever you can with the idea of being, share what's important to you, what you think is important for our industry, what's important for our members who work within our industry to know, right? I think you guys understand, you've been in the industry for a long time, you understand that people who are new to the industry or recently entered into the industry model their behavior and decision making not only on their value sets, but by watching what their supervisors do. the bosses do, how they behave, the decisions they make. As leaders of organizations, you establish this climate that the people work within. You set the tone, and these a lot of people watch what you're doing and model their behavior after yours. So we'd like to hear as much as we can from each of you this afternoon here. So thank you again for joining us. So as we go through our discussion, if there's a important topic you want to offer up, please just go ahead and do that. But I'll start it off by just asking a question, and I'll leave it to you to decide who goes first and second, etc. But
Rick will go first.
Rick will go first. Okay.
Oh,
Executive decision. There's lesson number one.
wait, was that a question? Are we the entertainment?
I think so. I think so. It's I feel bad for. Well, I hope not. Yeah,
Ready?
yeah, we're ready. That was it.
You both served as president of the GCA and spent many years on the board of directors. Why is being active in our association important to you?
I think you should go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great question for you, Emmett. I mean, I know most of us get involved in the industry somewhat reluctantly. You probably were as well. I think a lot of us we're not sure that we have anything we can contribute that's going to be valuable, and we wonder why us and why not more important people. And frankly, I ask myself that question a lot, even now. But when you reach a certain point in your career, I think you start seeing your job as more than just a 9 to 5 within your space, and you start seeing it as part of a broader system, and that system is part of our community. And if you're going to help make that a better place, particularly with what we do for a living, shaping our built environment, if you're going to do that, then you have some obligation to serve the broader community as well. And an organization like GCA, with its focus beyond the individual businesses and into the community, that's a really an awesome place to try to make that kind of difference. So, for me, it was probably a lot like you. Nobody really gave me much of a choice. They said, "It's your turn," and so I showed up, and I kept showing up. But I think it is kind of an important thing to see yourself as part of something bigger. I think that's just important.
Similar story, but maybe a little bit after Lance got started with the GCA. Somehow I got cajoled into being a board member. I remember showing up at the board meetings and having no clue what was going on. It was like zing, zing, zing on the budget and stuff. And I'm not an accountant like Lance, so I had no clue, absolutely no clue. But the one thing that dawned on me was that after attending several of these board meetings, is that how the leaders of the various organizations, the companies I respected in Hawaii, were so unselfish. They were not there promoting their own companies. They were literally looking after the community, the state of Hawaii, and of course our industry, and all members of the GCA. And when you listen to those senior members of the GCA at these board meetings and how passionate they are about helping each other and helping our industry, it gets to you, and you want to start contributing somehow. It grows on you.
When did you decide you're a senior member of the industry? Because nobody gave me that memo. So
Senior doesn't mean age.
Oh, okay.
It just means experience.
So Emmett, why did you decide to do this job?
Listening to you both speak is very similar experience, right? I was active with the national organization, GCA of America, really before I got really involved with GCA Hawaii. And I developed a relationship with the previous executive, GCA executive, and I think that relationship drew some of my interest to what the association was doing. And then there was a meeting that just out of the blue, Rick asked me to attend, and it was at the Veterans Hall near Katy And you were there, Bill Wilson was there, and a bunch of other people were there, deciding whether or not to ratify the collective bargaining agreement. I'm in this meeting not knowing what is going on, but I saw all of the leaders there discussing my future as a construction employee, along with many others. So I was interested, and a couple of years passed, and Rick walks into my office and says, someone's going to call you and invite you to be a member of the board, and it's a very good idea if you accept. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So what do you think about, not everybody, the younger people have that opportunity. You guys have a great relationship between Rick and you can talk about these things, but in larger organizations, younger people aren't that proximate to their leader. And so how can they get introduced the way you were, right? I mean, how do we make that kind of opportunity available?
I think start by getting involved with the GCA's committees, right? Just to see the inner workings of the organization and how it influences and drives the direction of what we're doing as Hawaii's construction industry. And if you you see that you enjoy that or you want to become more involved, I think the organization itself will offer up in time these opportunities for people to step forward and become maybe chairs or co-chairs of the committees. And it's really how much you want to get involved personally, and if you expend that energy, the organization, and I think the organization is going to recognize that. And I think, as Rick mentioned earlier, the companies that are involved with the organization are sound, solid companies, and the leadership of those companies, I think, would support participation of their junior members to grow with the understanding that the long-term goal is succession of the industry, preserving the knowledge that you all have, and making sure that perpetuates throughout moving into the future. Start if you don't know how to get started, call Cheryl. That's what you do. Call Cheryl and ask to be involved with the committee. That's the easiest thing to do.
It's a great idea. Why don't you have her cell phone number? You might want to read it out loud or her home number, maybe.
I think the challenge, and you kind of hit on it in workforce development, but the challenge is to make our organization exciting and desirable for the younger members of our industry to come and be involved. And we're blessed to have Cheryl. She has a vision, and she's forward thinking and has a great strategy about how to achieve that. We got a young incoming president, that also probably relates a little bit more to the younger generation of within our industry, some of them. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have some changes. To be honest, I think the GCA has been a bit stagnant over the last 15 years. And when we had a change in the leadership with the VP, executive VP, I think that injected a lot of positive energy. And I see great things happening.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate in my life to be a part of some large and old organizations. Kiewit, that was 100 and something years old and pretty big company. And we've been blessed to be part of the Kamehameha Schools, which is 130 years old and pretty good sized organization. And, the GCA is almost 90 years old, I guess, and pretty good sized organization. The reality is that old, big things don't tend to move real fast in nature, right? When you think about anything that you can think of out there in nature that's big and old, you don't think about as being nimble and quick. And so because of that, we have to try extra hard. I think we have to be real purposeful. We got to be real specific. You got to really make extraordinary efforts to try to move the organization in new and different ways, because its nature is going to be sluggish. I think that's true of any large and old organization, and you have to be purposeful about that. And I think we tried to do that in looking for our new leader when we had the opportunity in Cheryl, and I think that's going to pay big dividends for us in the long run. And in the leadership like yourself, I don't think of myself as an old guy, honestly, but I guess I am. I guess because I'm here with you, so I must.
You were my mentor, so that means you must be older
that's
than
super
me.
sad, bro. I mean, honestly, but I guess I've been around a long time, and it's by its nature, right? I think you tend to look at the world through your own lens. It's very, very difficult to change that. So sometimes you got to make change and take risk in order to get that thing to move in a different direction. Be purposeful about it, be thoughtful about it, but be intentional. And that's, I think, what we try to do. And that's what we're hoping for in the future.
Okay. Big topic on everyone's mind, obviously, COVID-19, right? So you were both part of the COVID-19 task force that the GCA implemented, created, which is instrumental in ensuring the construction industry could keep working. Where do you think we're headed from here? What's next? And what should we expect? Any more drastic changes or what do you think? What's the direction?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little rocky for a while as we get through this vaccination stage. You know, it's we got a ways to go, and I think it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to be a real interesting future as businesses look at their physical footprint, right? So we're in the business of building infrastructure, building new facilities, building buildings and office spaces and places for business to take place. And there's been a dislocation during this period of time where businesses have figured out how to do that without those facilities. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time for the broader business community to figure out what they really need in terms of physical footprint. And then it takes years for us in our business to catch up to that, to create new opportunities for us. So I think it's going to be, that's a long-winded way of saying, who knows, right? I don't know. But I do think that our industry has demonstrated a couple of things. One, we can be innovative, we can flex, right? And people don't think about our business as being innovative because concrete hasn't changed that much in about 2,000 years. But you know, the way that we do our work and the way that we can implement, I think we've demonstrated flexibility, ingenuity, and innovation. And I think we've demonstrated that we can come together as an industry and represent, you know, a big swath and an important part of our economy. And that in the long run, I think will help us have our voice and help us to shape the way that future looks. So I was really, I thought it was very important for us to get out in front of this COVID thing when it started happening and really try to represent this entire industry, because that sector is so important to the economy. And if we didn't do it, then I was afraid of who would. And so I was really grateful that the GCA allowed us to form this task force and get out there and do some work and represent. And I think it's been helpful, and I think it's helped keep us going.
I'd like to give a lot of credit to Lance and Cheryl for initiating that task force. And they did a lot of behind the scenes research and discussions with different agencies around the state to help them. Everyone was struggling. And I think they looked at, because of Lance and Cheryl's initiative, they looked at the GCA and the construction industry as a major source of knowledge and maybe vision for how they can find a path to a successful future. But you can be pessimistic and you can be optimistic. I always kind of, except with my own life, I try and be optimistic. And I see there are some potential pluses for our industry, because Lance mentioned that construction is going to be an economic driver, and the various leaders in the state recognize that. We heard it several times. We interviewed all the mayoral candidates, for example. I think hands down, every single one of them said, without a doubt, construction is going to be our economic driver or engine over the next year, because tourism is dying. It's not there right now. So it's going to be a means to employ a lot of people. high-paying jobs. It has benefits beyond just the direct payroll. You've got suppliers that are feeding off of the construction industry. Small businesses benefit left and right. And it's all that money stays 99% within the state of Hawaii, and it gets multiplied. So I know, I believe that, budget's going to be tight this year, but they're gonna focus on construction when they have the opportunity. The other thing that's kind of a bright side, that we sort of ignore the federal side of our business, and the federal government is blinded. They have no vision of problems with finances. The Department of Defense has a ton of money that they want to invest in Hawaii. They're right now designing dry dock number 5. It's billions of dollars worth of work in Pearl Harbor. And I really think, as a leader of the construction industry in Hawaii, we've got to get in there and we got to promote Hawaii contractors and make sure that we get a fair shot at all those projects coming out. Especially, I'm always concerned about the small businesses. They get left on by the side of the street, and we got to make sure we're listening to them and their issues and take care of them. See what we can do as an industry leader to help them.
Tell us a story, the biggest mistake you've ever made, either in your career choices or on a project, and what you learned from that.
Wow. Can I ask how many people are watching this before I answer that question? A lot? Are you sure? Not.
Your audience just went up.
Wow, there's so many. There's so many to figure. So I sometimes ask this question to people when I do what you do right there, right? So I tried to do that a little bit, but you kept asking questions. So I try to ask, what was the worst piece of advice you ever got? Worst piece of advice. So I think and this is maybe a mistake that I've made too. Probably the worst piece of advice I ever got was a boss of mine one time used to. It was one of his favorite sayings was that hope is not a strategy. Right? And his point was, and it was well taken. His point was, you got to do a little bit more than just hope it gets better. Like you got to do something in order to try to make things better. And I've thought about that a lot because while it may be true that hope is not a strategy, hope is absolutely necessary. It's been my opinion and my experience that if you don't have hope, it's hard to get up in the morning. It's hard to strap those boots on every day. You gotta have a little bit of blind optimism, particularly in our business, right? I mean, our business is tough. Things that are going well never cross our desk because people just do those things that are going well. When we only deal with things when they're not going well, that's the only time we see things. And but you got to have hope, right? So I've been over the years learned that while hope, it's true, might not be a strategy, it's an absolutely necessary ingredient. And I try to bring a little bit of that to my job every day. I try to be hopeful, even sometimes in the face of amazing odds against you. You try to be hopeful. I think you try to be optimistic. I think the people around you, as you said earlier, right, they take cues from you. And if you're pessimistic, if the glass is always half empty, if you don't have a hope for a better tomorrow than it is today, the people around you are going to feel that way. And so even if you don't actually have it, you got to have it. So you got to be optimistic and be supportive and try to look towards a better day. I think I've learned to do that. I've tried to do that. I'm not always successful, but I try. I didn't quite answer your question, but that's the benefit of being older.
Or a politician.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. So, Rick, what is your answer to that question?
Can you repeat that? It happened on March 28th, 1982. The worst decision of my life and my career. And I was working on as a project engineer on Alpha pipeline project, Ocean Alpha pipeline project in Mayaguez, Puerto Rico. We'd been working 7 days a week. Everyone was kind of a little bit tired. It was a Sunday afternoon, beautiful weather like we had today, calm, sunny, just gorgeous. So I went out on the tugboat in the morning with the dive crew, and we did some inspection work on the pipeline. And they had all their dive gear set up, and all these guys were my friends, and we've been working 7 days a week. And I've been talking to them, because I was a diver and a spear fisherman. I said, I'd love to try this hardhead diving. Man, that looks cool. So we brought the tugboat back into the dock, and it was in a very calm harbor. Maybe the water there was 20 feet deep. It was inside of a large bay, Mayaguez Bay. And so the water quality as far as visibility was horrible, zero viz, but calm day, 20 feet of water, tugboats tied up to the trestle. What could go wrong? So they said, hey, Rick, you want to try the hardhead? We're finished early, got a couple of hours, we got air left in the bottles. They had a surface supplied system that used oxygen bottles to feed the helmet. So never had any training with the hardhead diving gear. The tender slapped on this harness. He put this thing called a neck dam over my head, and it's a tight neoprene fitting like a turtleneck with a brass rim around it that the helmet comes over and it locks in and engages with some clips. So they put the hat on me. And and the last thing I remember him doing, he took the hose and said, I'm gonna clip this on the harness, because if you get in trouble, we can pull you up and it's not gonna hurt the hose. Anyway, tap me on the back. I jump over, swim out away from the tugboat, and clear myself. I look back at the boat and I'm talking. I got communication. I'm talking. So, okay, I'm clear. I'm going down. Went down to the bottom and I said, man, this is the greatest thing. And man, usually scuba diving, you're all wet and cold. This was dry inside the helmet. Everything's going well. But then I said, I kind of feel like I'm moving. What's going on? Because I couldn't see anything. But all of a sudden I heard the engines of the tugboat kind of rev up. And pretty soon I feel I'm moving faster. So I realized that the hose that was leading to the tugboat now somehow got probably sucked into the propeller. And for some reason, the propeller was turning, which it shouldn't have been. And anyway, long story short, I got dragged right into I got wound right into the propeller and stuck there. And apparently the helmet was in the line of the propeller, because we got that helmet today. It's in Hawaii and there's dents in it. So we know my helmet, that saved my head from being cracked open. I tried to escape. I had no training, but I remember that they clipped this thing on the neck down. So I tried to undo that. I was going to throw the helmet off and escape. And then I realized that that guy clipped the hose to my harness. So I had to unclip the hose to get out of there. And so I stopped. I reached down to unclip the hose and ran out of air. I exhaled and there was a vacuum and I passed out, but I had undone the neck dam. So water was coming in the helmet. So I did drown. Nobody knows for how long I was, unconscious and out of breath. The diver jumped over with the scuba tank, literally holding it under his arm and a knife, and cut me free, got me to the surface and did CPR. And I eventually recovered, obviously. It was a hell of a lot smarter before that day, but so lessons learned. How many do you want to go through?
But I never heard that story.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 25. Well, I wasn't 20. I was 24.
24.
Close to being 25.
And you've had no effects from that?
No.
That you know of?
No. I had a little bit of, you get what they call pleurisy in the lungs because the nasty water goes in there. So I had some after effects from that. It had probably some scar tissue in the lungs, but heck, I'm a distant ocean swimmer and it never bothered me. So
wow,
I'm okay.
Did you flatline?
I flatlined.
Really?
Yeah, I was gone. They did CPR on me when I got up to the deck. And the other thing is, it was in Puerto Rico. So the ambulance was a station wagon, literally a station wagon. And the first 3 hospitals they took me to said I wasn't going to make it, and they refused to admit me. So the diver that saved my life, Pat Ross, who runs C Engineering, he said the only thing he could think of was to call Roosevelt Roads, which was a naval hospital, to see if they would admit me, which was clear across the island. And they said, well, we only admit people that have the bends. That, you know what bends?
Yeah.
And Pat goes, oh, he definitely has the bends. I didn't have the bends. And so they flew out a Coast Guard helicopter and picked me up and medevaced me to Roosevelt Roads. And I stayed in the hospital for 3 days to recover. And then,
wow.
Yeah. But
that is an amazing story.
It just, I repeat that in my mind when I think, you know, safety back in the 80s was not what it is today. But the lessons I learned from that accident, I try and convey to people like Emmett and our people. You don't take things for granted. Don't trust equipment. Communication is key. Training is key. There's everything. You open up a safety manual, everything in there, I learned that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at you different.
The funny thing is, after that happened, I used to get pissed off at the project manager and the divers would come in the morning and talk to me, and I'd be so pissed off. And I go, that project manager is brain dead. And then they would go in and talk to the project manager and they go, you guys almost killed my project engineer. Now look at him. He's brain dead. So the divers were stuck between a brain dead engineer and a brain dead project manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No. But I'm lucky for Pat Ross. I wouldn't be here today without him. He's a member of the GCA, C Engineering, and yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's your story? Now that you've heard this story, you get follow up one with what was your biggest mistake? Maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's coming and doing this.
Definitely agreeing to do this. That's going to be one of the bigger ones. Totally fish out of water.
Yeah.
But like you guys said earlier, I think there's the opportunities there for a lot of learning, which eventually I can turn around to teaching like you guys are doing, right? But biggest mistake, nothing as dramatic as Rick's. You know, the story would be a boring construction story about being over budget and behind schedule.
Next one, let me tell my story first, because that would have been so lame in compared to your story.
No, it just bad day.
Yeah.
What can I say? Started out nice.
Right.
That's usually when the bad accidents happen, you know, everything's beautiful in the morning.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted.
Good.
We talked a little earlier about, I think you asked me how would people become involved with GCA, the organization. Maybe a slightly different question. What kind of advice or suggestions would you have for the younger professionals or younger industry workers to advance their careers? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them or want them to know about giving them advice to advance within our Hawaii construction community?
I'm not answering any more questions after that died while diving question. I'm not. Are you kidding? But nothing I can say can be as good as that story.
Sure you can.
That's a really good story.
You want another drink?
Yeah, I might need one. What would you tell young people? You know, I probably still consider myself a bit of a young person, so I'm the only one, though. That's the sad part. But you know, I find that I think some of the younger people in our business tend to spend a lot of their time and energy looking left and right at the people, their peer group next to them, wondering what they're doing, what they're getting paid, how come they're getting that opportunity, not me, and spend a lot of energy worried about where they are relative to their peer group as they think about progressing in their careers. And I personally think it's a lot of wasted energy. I never worried all that much about like whatever title I had, and I was probably not qualified for most of the jobs I had. But I think if they spend a little bit less time worried about what they're doing relative to other people, or trying to compare themselves or their position or their title or the time in their career to other people, and spend a little more time just worried about, what can I do to focus on what I want to do and what I want to be, I think a lot about careers not being so much as of a ladder. And I think that's part of the problem, is that young people tend to think that in order to get ahead, I got to climb this ladder because I have a boss and he's up there, and I got to climb that thing and get up there. And there's a bunch of people between me and him. And so I got to figure out how to, wait in line or get around them. And that's a lot of wasted energy, in my opinion. I think our business, what we do for a living, is so varied. There's so much to do. There's never no more work to do, right? I mean, you ever get to the end of your day and go, gosh, I guess that's all there is to do today, right? I mean, that's never the case, right? There's always more to do. And so, I think if you'd spend a little bit more time thinking about your future, what it is you want to be doing, what skills you need in order to get to that place, and then work on developing those skills to make it possible for you to achieve what you want to achieve, worrying less about everything else and the noise around you. That would be my advice. And I like to talk to people about, worrying a little bit less about what you want to be when you grow up, and worrying a little bit more about what you want to be doing when you get there. And so you're not thinking so much about title or position or the kind of car you drive, or that kind of material stuff, and more about how you want to be spending your day and the kind of impact you want to be making, the difference you want to be making for yourself and your family and your community. And then you can think about, okay, what skills do I need in order to do that thing, and then focus on that. That's some of the advice I would give.
Any comments on that, Rick?
I agree with that. I'll add a few. Little different angle. I think Emmett and I work for a marine contractor, so it's a little different type of work than a lot of like building contractors. So maybe a little bit different view than what you have, Lance. But I think what's important, what my recommendation would be for younger people in our industry is don't be hung up on your title or your position or your education. What you want to do, or what you should be doing, is trying to learn from the people that know how to build things. And when you're a young engineer, you're usually assigned out in the field as a field engineer. Take that opportunity to go out and talk to the workers, the craft workers, the superintendents, the senior project engineers, the project manager, and ask them questions and ask them about how they're going to approach and what are they doing with their work, especially the craft workers. That's so important in our business in marine construction, because it's an art form. It's something that's handed down from generation to generation. And unless you get in there and actually get to know those people that have been there and done it, you're not going to gain that knowledge. You can't get that out of a textbook. So use those beginning years of your career to gain that field knowledge, I guess, for a better term.
Yeah, well, I think it's true in other kinds of work too.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's unique to your business, although your business is unique. But whether it's pouring concrete or finish work or marine work or heavy equipment operation, the guys who do that every day for a living have forgotten more about this business than you'll probably know. And I've been very lucky, and I suspect you've had some of the same experience. I've never asked a guy, hey, what you doing, how you doing? I've never had any of them say, I'm not going to tell you, right? They
love it.
Generally want to share that knowledge because they know that what they do is pretty unique, and they've come to that knowledge over a long period of time. And they're generally quite willing to share that. If you show a genuine interest in it, if you're a little bit curious, right, and you go and you're willing to spend the time with them, then very few of them will say, no, I'm not going to tell you what I know. But you have to make that effort, because they're not going to come to you to say, let me show you what I'm doing. That's not in their nature. It's not in people's nature. So you have to be that person. You have to be proactive about that.
Yeah, bingo. I think it's the first step to leadership, right? Because you're learning how to show respect for people, the people that count, and that is a seed that you're planting with people in the field that will grow, and they're going to be a loyal supporter of you through your career, because you took the time to show them respect when you were young and learning. That's been my history, and your history too, Emmett. Yeah, you came up the right way. The other thing, when I first started with Healy Tibbetts, the president of Healy Tibbetts was he was a grumpy old guy, man. He was a Marine that fought in Iwo Jima, and he was about your height, and he wanted to belittle everyone that talked to him. But if you got him one-on-one, he had a lot of knowledge, and you had to kind of deal with some of the anguish and anger coming from him at times. But I remember just it was late in the evening, and I was there working in the office. So I think he came down to my office, and we started talking. And so what's your advice in this business? And he said, you know what the best thing you can have in our business is curiosity. And I've never forgotten that. And, and I think about that all the time, because I'm sitting in the office and something will come up, a question will come up, and you could just put it off to the side. But I'm a curious cat. I can't put it down. I got to go find out why, or find the solution. So be curious is another thing I would teach the younger people in our industry.
That's always been one of the things I try to tell young people too. If there's two gifts I could give them, young people, one would be the gift of curiosity, because I think it's so important. All the best people I've always worked for were just like genuinely curious. They just wanted to know how things worked and what you were about. And so curiosity is super important. And then the second a gift I would give people is self-awareness. I think it's so important to know who you are, and not enough of us take the time to reflect on that. And if you're going to be successful, if you're going to be an effective leader, it's really important to know who you are as a person. What turns you on, what makes you mad, what fulfills you, what frustrates you. And once you know yourself really well, you can help position what you do relative to other people in a way that can help them be effective too. If you don't really take the time to know yourself well, then you can't really expect those around you to know you too. And then they're not going to be as successful, because they won't know how to satisfy, what you need to accomplish.
Yeah. Don't pretend to be someone you're not.
Sometimes we have to.
I have one more thing. It's more of a kind of a boring thing, but I think writing skills are so critical to our business from top to bottom of the organization. And today's world is going to what we call requests for proposals. They're not the old rip and read numbers. You're not just writing numbers on a sheet of paper and turning them into your client. You have to write clear and concise statements about how you're going to approach a project. So you need good writing skills. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You need good writing skills all the way through the organization, because you're writing RFIs, you're putting in submittals, and you've got to sometimes you got to make an argument in writing to win a claim or a change order, right?
Make sure you're trying to tell us we're out of time. I say hopefully. No? Really? Not yet? How long have we been up here? Oh, really? Not long enough. Is there anybody still watching? Can you figure that out? Glenn Kanashige is watching. Has Glenn Kanashige asked a question? No. Does the chat only work in one way, or can I ask him a question?
No.
No? It only works one way. Okay. All right. Well, I tried.
I'm curious.
Oh, you're curious?
I'm curious.
Oh, okay.
Rewind back to your comment about self-reflection
hmm
and the importance of being self-aware, or reflecting on yourself so that you're self-aware. How do you do that? Do you have examples, like you go out and exercise, or what?
God, clearly not. I mean, what are you trying to do? Like, was that like a dig? Like, what is that? Do you exercise? Who says that? I mean, look at me. That's rude. No, I don't exercise. I think that's obvious. I think to know yourself, you have to, first of all, be willing to spend time alone and be quiet. Like, that's hard for people to spend time with themselves very quiet. And then, you gotta like subject yourself to some criticism from other people. Like, ask people. There are like a lot of tools nowadays, right? Like 360 reviews, and there's some formal programs and tools that you can use to get feedback from people around you about, your strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. I spend a fair amount of time, speaking of writing skills, like I'll run things that I write through other people and ask, how does that come across? How does that look and feel to you? And try to get feedback about my work and what I do. If I have to prepare for a speech or something, I might write some thoughts down and run it by other people to get a sense of, is what I'm saying coming across in the way I want it to come across. And after this, I'm sure I'll ask Cheryl, like, how was that? Was that okay? Or did I come across as a doof or whatever? And she'll probably say, no, it was fine. But, you expect people, right? You get to a place in life, Rick's going to ask you, hey, Emmett, how was I? And what are you going to say to him? He's your boss. You're going to say, was awesome. Right? I mean, so when you get to a place in leadership, you just have to sort of learn to discount some of that stuff, because people become a little bit too patronizing. But, so you got to work at it, though, right? You got to be interested in what people think about you, and just be open to it, and think about it a little bit. And we learn certain values that Kamehameha, and Kamehameha is very proud of you. And, you learn to be ha'a, try to be humble, right? You try to provide support and kahua, and you try to malama, and you try to do those things that we are taught and live those values. Hopefully that comes out a little bit.
So I know the questions kind of, or the discussion kind of melds into this whole leadership discussion. But if you had to boil it down, what's the most valuable leadership lesson that you've learned over the course of your career?
Ooh. Is that signaling like we're getting close to the end, or still no? There's not that many people left. For anybody watching, there's nobody left in the studio, like a couple people, and they're all looking at us like, honestly, they're about as tired as listening to us as we might be about listening to each other. So what was the question? And maybe Rick could answer this.
If you had to high level look at your career, the most valuable leadership lesson that you learned, right? Or the most
I don't know. I'm gonna let Rick answer that
Okay.
first. Right, I'm gonna let you answer.
I don't have a good answer, but we're owned by a parent company, Weeks Marine, and Rich Weeks. It's a privately owned company. Rich Weeks is a good friend of mine, and we used to have strategic planning meetings with the division managers around the company. And if you look around the room, and Rich would always comment that we're a room full of reluctant leaders, and none of us really had an ambition to become leaders, but we were all hard workers, and we did what we were assigned to do with passion and energy, and tried to do the best we could. So I just framed myself as a reluctant leader. I know Emmett is, because when I made the announcement
that's pretty clear.
At a Christmas party that he was vice president, he ran into the bathroom and started drinking Heinekens before he would come out. So he was very reluctant.
Something harder than that.
but I personally appreciate people that aren't ambitious, but when they're asked to step up and do something, there's a reason why they're asked. It's because the leaders of the organization recognize that they are a leader. The people they're surrounded by recognize that they're a leader. So you don't have to have that drive that I'm going to be the top dog of the company. It'll happen naturally.
Yeah. I've always been a little afraid of somebody who wanted a job like that.
I know somebody, but he's almost done now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, leadership is service. And so if you don't like serving, then you shouldn't be a leader, right? Because I think at the end of the day, the way to really think about leadership is the organization rests on your shoulders. You carry that thing, and you gotta be responsible to all the people above you, not the other way around. I think young people when you start off in your career, you think about climbing to the top or being at the top, and people below work for you, and that's the language that we use, that's the vocabulary that we use. But the reality is that the pyramid that you're thinking about is really upside down, and it rests on your head. And so you serve, and that's true leadership is service. And if you don't like serving, then you shouldn't be a leader. You're not built for it. And I know people, good and bad, and in leadership roles, and the worst don't learn that lesson, right? That important lesson that leadership is service. That you work now as that leadership. If you're at the top of an organization, you now have Juliana on behalf of everybody. Everybody is relying on you, and the higher you go, the more people rely on you. And if you're not comfortable with that, if you're not comfortable with that level of responsibility, then leadership's not for you. And so leadership is service.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I when Rick started giving me more and more responsibility, I focused on what I believe is the right way to look at it, and that is servant leadership. And I agree with the way you described it, Lance. And so far, it's been working.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see next year. 12 months from now, we'll see what kind of attitude you have
change my mind about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got time for one more? So just open-ended question, parting shots, anything else that...
What do you hope for? This is my question for you. You got 12 months. I remember you were president, right, of this organization, and I was president at one point, and nobody really asked me what I wanted to do. I guess nobody cared. That's probably what it came down to. But you got 12 months, brother. So what do you want to do?
I think I'm lucky because we have Cheryl on board, right? And she has all this new, fresh energy and great ideas to kind of rebrand or refresh the organization to make sure that we're attracting membership from across the entire cross-section of our construction community and driving the knowledge across that entire cross-section. And she came in here, and we as a group, including you guys, have helped develop a revised strategic plan that's going to focus on, engaging with membership, attracting new membership, and continue with all the other things that the organization has been focused on, advocacy and networking. Right, that's going to continue. But with Cheryl coming on board, I think kind of looking at it a little differently and with a little more intent and plan. So I'm excited. I'm lucky that Cheryl's there, kind of driving that, and I hope to work with her to attract new membership and make everyone understand more clearly what the value our organization brings, and so that they engage more. They bring with them the knowledge that they have within their organizations to spread with us, and just rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's I know that isn't anything specific, but that's what's in plan for the next 12 months.
Good. You see how I did that, Cheryl? How you see how I set you up so you could come up here and do the closing remarks? Uh, I don't have anything more to say. I think people have stopped listening. I could have stopped talking a long time ago. I think this year is going to be an interesting one. I think at points like this, right, inflection points in our industry, the world is a different place. People are going to turn to the post-COVID environment. What does that mean? And our industry is, like, as Rick suggested, as important, if not more important than it's ever been, because that leg of our stool needs to be super strong in order for our economy to stay afloat. And they're going to turn to our industry. They're going to turn to you. And they're going to say, hey, what do you need? How can you help? And you're going to have to be more visible and more active and more forward facing than you're probably comfortable being, right? So, but I'm like you, right? I'm a relatively shy person. I'm a very shy person, actually. And but I recognized a long time ago that it's hard to accomplish the things that need to get done if you acquiesce too much. And so, I think we all do what we need to do, even when it's uncomfortable, particularly when it's uncomfortable. So you're going to have to do stuff that's uncomfortable for you. But in that effort, I think you're going to grow and you'll be a different person, and your business is going to really benefit from that. And that's why I think it's so important for companies to let their young people participate, because you're going to be a much better leader for your organization with this experience in your back pocket, as I felt like I was after I had my opportunity. So I'm excited for you. I'm very optimistic for you. And like you said, we're blessed because in our business, we have guys like Rick and Bill and Jerry and all the other guys on our board who like the craft people we talk about. If you ask them a question, they're not going to say no. If you say, hey, I really need help with that, they're not going to say no. They're going to say, okay, how can I help? And we're just really lucky that way. So take advantage of. That's my advice to you. Take advantage.
Thank you, Lance.
Yeah, I mean, my advice is use this as an opportunity to expand your network. You're going to meet so many people, and they're going to respect you for your position, and then they're going to get to know you, and they're going to respect you for who you are. And those will be lifelong relationships that will carry you until you retire. And so take advantage of it. It's going to be a balancing act because you can't do everything. You've got a company, Healy Tibbetts, that you're managing.
But GCA comes first. That's super clear about that.
Yes,
when you got to choose, okay, Healy Tibbetts or GCA. It's GCA. It's always GCA. Just always super clear about that.
GCA number one. Don't be afraid to come in and say, hey, Rick, can you help me out? Seriously. I know you don't like to do that, but I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I'm bored half the time. I like working. So
that's kind of the reality, right? Like, as we get to like our age, we're sitting there waiting for somebody to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that much else to do.
I feel like the Maytag repairman is. The people don't even know what that means.
They don't.
I know what that means.
So seriously, you get bogged down, call me, yell at me.
Thanks, Emmett.
Appreciate you two being here today. It means a lot. So thank you.
Mahalo.
Yep. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you all. That was truly an outstanding discussion. Thank you, Rick and Lance, for participating, and Emmett for moderating our first ever leadership forum. There were valuable lessons learned for anyone at any stage of their career who used this. So thankfully, it's been recorded for those who may have missed this live presentation. Before we close, I'd like to thank GCA Deputy Director Gladys Hageman for her hard work as always, coordinating this event, and the rest of the GCA staff, Judy, Mary, and Ryan, for their support. Shout out to our production crew, Mark Tawara of Manageability LLC, and Joe, Mark's our Zoom master extraordinaire, videographer Chris Childress of Twilight Audio, and Kavika, who's helping us with our teleprompter, and Olelo Community Media for allowing us to use their beautiful, spacious studio to bring you this event in a new way this year, and hopefully for the last time. We are looking forward to vaccines, a productive year ahead, and most of all, getting back together in person soon. Mahalo for tuning in, and good night.
Good job.